Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and in keeping with our continuous follow-up of the preparations for the COP27, which will be held in the Red Sea resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh later on this year in the month of November. We're delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest, Dr. Khaled Fahmy, the former Minister of Environment. Dr. Khaled, a very good afternoon to you, sir.
Yes, good afternoon, ma'am.
Thank you very much for joining us, sir. And let's first and foremost start by asking you, sir, what does it mean, to convert the Red Sea resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh to a green city? How important is this, not just for the hosting of the COP later on in November this year, but in general for climate practices?
To turn something into green, that means that you will streamline all environmental issues within all your activities, events, and the like.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a long-term process. It is more of a design. You have to insert this in the design of the things from the beginning of the thing. So this is a long-term process, but the endeavor of Egypt in this is that it wants to show that to the world that we are serious and there is a political will in addressing environmental issues and turning Egypt, and not only Sharm el-Sheikh, into a green country.
Yes. Now, this climate conference, of course, is very important and gaining more importance with the severe climate changes that we've seen taking place all around the world. What do you see are the most important challenges for this meeting, for this time round, or this session of the COP Climate Summit?
Let us first of all say that this session is not a session of decision. It's a session of implementation. It's a session of a follow-up. So decision has already been taken. They've been taken in Paris. They've been taken and reiterated in Glasgow. And now we want to see how are we going to address it. How will we turn this from words into action? How would we walk the talk? That's what it's all about. This is why the stressing of all of the countries coming with their implementation plan. Yes, we do have, the major polluters do have what we call long-term strategic goals that's going to be targeted for the 2050 and beyond. But we need to know how we will be moving now to 2030 and then beyond. What are the steps to be taken? What are the policies that's going to be implemented?
Yes. Doctor, let me ask you, what do you see are the most important sectors that have been affected by issues related to climate change?
In general, that's what we call adaptation, that we adapt to climate change, and that will mean the drought, that will mean all the consequence of overheat, or that the globe is heating, like rains, like storms, like tornadoes, like drought in a lot of countries. That affects the food security, and it affects the quality of life of the people, and could also affect the life of the people itself.
Yes. You mentioned a very important issue, Doctor, which is that of food security. Tell us a bit about how climate change threatens, the issue of food security for countries all around the world, as we see the drastic drop or rise of temperatures, the flooding, the drought. How does this all work towards affecting global food security?
It is estimated by FAO that the productivity, the agriculture productivity will drop by 25% by 2030 if we don't address the climate change issue. So if you have drops somewhere, if the weather changes, this will impact automatically your harvesting and the plantation, because plantation is based on agriculture ground. It's based on a certain meteorological condition where it is good for the seeds to start growing. So if the temperature changes, then the whole this endangers the whole cycle. And that's what happened in Egypt, for example, 2 years ago with the mango, where we lost a couple of billions of LE because of the change in weather, the unexpected change in weather. It happened this year with the olive plantations, and it could happen in all the world. So it is estimated that the major cereal products around the world will be affected by climate change, and a decline in productivity. It's expected. This will impact automatically the basic food requirements for most of the world, in particularly the developing countries.
Mm-hmm. Speaking about the developed nations this time, now that they've been also affected, and really felt the effects of climate change in their countries, do you think that this will, make them more serious about the pledges? And as you said, it's not a time for talk anymore, it's a time of action and actually implementing the pledges that they take with regards to climate?
To tell you the truth, that we were always, as developing countries, we were always asked by the developed world to be resilient and to take care of adaptation and do our best to increase our ability to absorb these changes. But suddenly, and this is last year, the opposite changed, because they were hit with the drought, and they felt that they themselves need to follow whatever they were preaching and start looking into adaptation themselves, which is a very costly operation, by the way. Yes, I believe this will lead, but the problem is that this is going to happen over a long period of time, because the kind of impact that we are seeing, this is based on accumulation of emission that happened 70 and 80 years ago. So even if we speed up all the activity, this will not mean that we will avoid all the impacts of the climate change, at least not in the short and medium term.
However, to plan for the future generations, they have to.
Exactly.
They have to implement.
Yes, we have to all.
Right. How important do you see such steps like, changing cities to become environmentally friendly cities, green technology, renewable energy, different sources of fuels, etc.? How important, are these steps in order to address and reduce the effects of climate change?
These are major steps. These are essential steps. We are entering a new world. I mean, this is a new era for humanity. With all its challenges and with all its opportunities, this is a new era for humanity, and we have to all be prepared to entering this age of greening, because this is the only way that we can maintain prosperity and maintain, even, I don't want to be so optimistic, even maintain the livelihood and the existence of the human kind.
Yes, indeed. One final question, Doctor, if I may. Egypt has said in the COP27 climate conference that it will be hosting later on this year in the Red Sea resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh, they will be calling on developed nations to fulfill the pledges that they have done in the past, their previous pledges with regards to financial support and aid to developing countries that are also bearing the brunt of climate change, even though they are the least contributors. For example, the African continent contributes very little to issues related to climate change and the adverse effects. However, they suffer the most.
Well, the world was saying this a long time ago, since Kyoto and since Copenhagen and again in Paris. What we need to stress, because the intentions are there, but the deeds, I mean, the real actions, they are the ones that are delayed. And that's what we should be concentrating on, is how to move forward. I mean, even we know that the latest report that has been passed by a lot of NGOs, a lot of environmental NGOs, is that Glasgow, 90% of the pledges were not fulfilled. That's the final. That's the report that we have in September. Okay, so I mean, let's start with what we pledged and how we're going to really impact us. We know that the world is suffering from COVID. We know that the world is suffering because of the Russian-Ukrainian war and the polarization, the escalated polarization situation in the world, we all know that. We all know that the world is addressing stagnation in the coming years. So we know it's a difficult assignment to get people to pay when they want to save or want to rationalize. We know that. But the problem here is not whether we have the luxury of delaying this or not. We must act. We must act if we want by the end of this century that the temperature do not exceed 1.5 degrees.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Khaled Fahmy, former Minister of Environment. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and your insight and for joining us on today's edition of Cairo Local Time. Ladies and gentlemen, another short break, and we'll be right back for more. Stay tuned.